Last I made a video about the coasters of Florida, it was November of 2020 and times have certainly changed. I have now ridden almost every operating roller coaster in the state, so I think it's time for an update. The only exception is I currently have no major credits at Universal Studios Florida, as in the main park, so those will be excluded. Also, there are always new coasters being built in Florida. I think there's currently one on the way to SeaWorld, along with Tron and Guardians at the Disney parks and various new stuff going to Universal's Epic Universe in 2025. Anyways, 20 coasters is a kind of narrow margin when you consider that Florida is one of the theme park hotspots of the country. It may be one of the best states for roller coasters. It's not one of the best states for anything else, but they are one of the best for coasters. There are so many incredible parks with so many incredible coasters, which have made it very difficult to decide these rankings. But I think I've compiled a list that I'm pretty happy with, so today I'll be presenting my top 20 roller coasters in the Sunshine State. Feel free to like this video, subscribe, and comment if you wish to see more content like this, and without further ado, let's get into the list. First, let's start things off with an honorable mention, which for this video will be the Dania Beach Hurricane at Boomers. This defunct wooden roller coaster was located at a closed Boomers location in South Florida and was a big player growing up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I remember telling myself this thing is huge in person and that I'll never ride it, but I did end up experiencing it a year before it closed to the public. Now, I was really young, so I don't actually remember any of the elements or airtime, but for those who have gotten to check it out and have had a fully developed brain at the time, they've said it was pretty good. Whether or not this is true, I don't know and won't ever know, which is why the ride is an honorable mention and not a genuine part of this list. On to the actual rankings, number 20 is Cobra's Curse at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This is a very unique mock spinning coaster with 3 separate portions. The first goes forwards, the second goes backwards, and the third, as well as the longest section of the ride, spins you freely. Additionally, the ride is equipped with a menacing cobra statue and some pretty cool theming, making it a really complete family roller coaster. Another very solid family coaster, and one that doesn't get enough love in my opinion, is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Magic Kingdom. Given that this is a Disney attraction, it's probably going to be a mine train, but they built a pretty unique type of mine train to compensate. The vehicles on this one are designed to rock back and forth throughout the layout, but I'll admit it isn't really evident unless you have an off-balance row like I did. Despite this, you have some great dark ride scenes in the middle of the ride and a fun windy course towards the end. A lot of theme park fans seem to trash this ride, and I've never understood why. Up next is the only water coaster in the state of Florida, this being Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld Orlando. Now, this ride only classifies as a coaster because of one twisted drop at the end of the ride, so that's not what I'm going to use to rank it. Instead, I'm looking at the all-around experience, and it's honestly one that doesn't get enough attention. The building facade is beautiful, the soundtrack feels like a dance party, and the first quarter of the ride is extremely well themed. Of course, the drops are a lot of fun too, and Journey to Atlantis is just a perfect option to cool down on a hot Florida day. Our first thrill coaster to make this list is White Lightning at Fun Spot Orlando. This small park signature attraction is a GCI wooden coaster from 2013 and is a ride that put Fun Spot as a company on the map. It's really not often that an FEC, albeit a pretty large one, builds a coaster on this scale. This is a full-fledged out and back ride with some quick pops of airtime and above average pacing. When I rode it in 2018, I thought it ran a little rough and a lot of the elements didn't shine at all, but I can still appreciate it for what it is because it's a pretty cool complement to Orlando's coaster collection. Heading back to Disney World is number 16 on the list with Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Magic Kingdom. This is my personal favorite of the 2 Thunder Mountains in the United States. For some reason, I just found this one to be more intense, plus it isn't as smooth, which actually fits the Wild Western theme a bit better in my opinion. As we all know, this thing is really well themed, very long, and very fun. Who doesn't like a ride on Thunder Mountain? Because I really could not tell you. But that doesn't make it my favorite mine train in Florida, as Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom packs a dang good punch. Really, calling this a mine train at all is a little deceiving because this thing is pretty intense. It's built going in and around this beautiful recreation of Mount Everest and has a nice variety of forces scattered about. The first indoor section pulls some shocking forces, as does the low-to-the-ground sections towards the end of the ride. Plus, the theming with the Yeti and the animation of him ripping the trek is such a fun twist to the experience. Now, I think most people would consider Expedition Everest the best roller coaster at Walt Disney World, but for my number 14 spot, I'll be giving that honor to Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom. The best way I describe this ride is Matterhorn at Disneyland in a box. You cannot see where you're going once you crest that lift hill, and the elements are so jarring to compliment. You have these sharp airtime moments and vicious turns taken at a great pace. I love how this coaster felt, as weird as it sounds, which is why I rank it so high on my list. But now we're really going to get on to the major scream machines of Florida. Number 13 is going to Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This is one of the longest steel coasters in the country, and it's really evident when you ride it yourself. 3 launches, an inversion, low to the ground turns, high off the ground turns, and an elevated figure 8. There's all sorts of weird track configurations that formulate a super long but comfortable and smooth family thrill coaster. This one can get a really long line though, so be sure to do it first thing in the morning when you visit Busch Gardens, Tampa. Back in Orlando, spot number 12 is going to go to Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. The park's newest coaster just opened in February and was a great addition to this park. Now, I find this pretty hard to rank because a lot of people made it out to be the second best ride in the park. Here's the thing, I liked Icebreaker as much as I expected, yet I still can't find it in me to put it higher. Regardless, this ride has a quadruple swing launch with bunny hills on either side that progressively get airtime that's stronger and stronger. Once you're over the top hat, you're treated to a fun layout of airtime hills and tight turns. This is a really complete layout, and there's no doubt in my mind that it's one of the best Premier Rides coasters to date. Staying in the same park, we're going to to up the intensity with Kraken, SeaWorld's very own floorless coaster. Now, I've always found that this is one of the stronger floorless coasters out there. The layout might not be anything too special, but the forces and the way it rides through its elements is above average for the ride genre. You pull some shocking positive G's in the back row, and the pacing is always really solid. I see that a lot of people think Kraken is rough, but I don't think so at all. I've experienced it over a dozen times across 3 different seasons and never have I found this to be the case. This is just a really well-rounded, rock-solid ride in my opinion. Florida's only dive coaster is taking our first top 10 spot. This is going to Cheetah at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This was America's first dive coaster, so it's going to have a pretty basic layout. 2 vertical drops, a couple turns, and a splashdown. Nothing crazy. But I think what makes this so good is the sheer scale of the attraction. They went ambitious with this coaster and they built it over 200 feet, and it did pay off. The speed is absolutely insane on this ride, which is why I can't recommend a front row ride enough. Back over to SeaWorld, number 9 is going to the flying coaster Manta. Now, I've always had a soft spot for B&M flyers. Something about flying at a prone position high above the sky is an experience that can't be replicated anywhere. But the use of that feature is always what makes a flying coaster hit or miss for me. What all of the B&M models share in this case are the crushing pretzel loops after the drop. This is one of the most intense inversions in the world, as you are taken on your back and physically can't move because of how strong the forces are applied on you. Luckily, the rest of the ride is gentle and filled with grace, which is a great contrast. I also have to say, SeaWorld did a great job adding in some theming, landscaping, and effects. A little bit of a twist, no pun intended, directs us to Mindblower at Fun Spot Kissimmee. I say this to highlight the coaster's key element, which is a 360-degree roll on a wooden roller coaster. These wooden coaster inversions are not easy to come by, and this one in particular is really great. But I think what makes this ride so good is it's not even close to being the best part of the ride. Mindblower is all about the rapid-fire turns, airtime hills, and direction changes. It keeps a crazy pace and never lets up until you hit the final brakes. Now, Mindblower does run a little rough, so brace for that if you're sensitive to shaky rides, but looking past that, there's so much to love about this coaster. Alright, in my opinion, this is where the rides get really good, because at number 7, I want to talk about a ride that goes by, get ready for this, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Universal's Islands of Adventure. That's a mouthful, isn't it? But yeah, they really said yes to every idea imaginable with this ride. I've heard the complaints stating that there's too many launches and too little movement, and I can definitely understand that. But really, what else can you expect from arguably the most themed coaster in the world? The point is that they're trying to tell a story, so when it slows you down, you have these really cool animatronics and ruins to take in. I do agree that it would be a little excessive without the theming though. There are 2 major surprises throughout the ride experience that I won't spoil for those of you who haven't ridden this ride, but they add so much to the experience in my opinion. Some word of mouth though, good luck getting on this ride because it routinely gets some of the longest lines maybe at any park in Florida. If you want to enjoy an equally as amazing ride with less of a wait, head over to the front of the park for the Incredible Hulk coaster. Now, I do say that with a grain of salt since some of you may not be able to handle the ultra intense nature of this ride. But for those of you who love thrill coasters, which I'd imagine is most of you since you're watching a channel called Coaster Dash, then you'll love it. The second half does die out a little, but the first half is absolutely perfect. Awesome uphill launch, 0G roll, Cobra roll, loop, and they are all paced to perfection. Combine that with an incredibly well-themed queue line, and you've got a winner for decades to come. Making my top 5 in the state is going to go to Manta at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This B&M inverted coaster is the best of its ride genre in the whole country, possibly the world. It has a layout that is sequenced beautifully, is very intense, and has some Egyptian-themed trenches that you dive in and out of. The signature element on Manta is the whippy batwing element that you can only find on one other invert in the world. It's one of my favorite inversions of all time and only adds to the endless reasons you'll want to get on Manta when you visit this park. Though if you walk across Busch Gardens, Tampa, you'll eventually find my number 4 ride in Florida known as Kumba. This was one of B&M's earliest designs, and in my opinion, it's still one of their best. The layout isn't anything unique, but I always tell people other B&M loopers just don't ride like Kumba does. The coaster absolutely shreds through its elements, with the best example being that 0G roll that some have nicknamed the hell roll out of its intensity. But it's not just that element, it's the entirety of Kumba that retains its intensity the whole way through. Some people don't understand the Kumba fandom, and that's okay, but just know that I freaking love this ride. My third favorite coaster in the state of Florida is Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. This is the tallest and fastest coaster in the entirety of Orlando, which is a statement considering the 9 different parks in the immediate area. Mako has gained a reputation as B&M's best hyper coaster in North America. Now, do I think this is true? No, and it doesn't even rank close to my top favorite B&M hyper in America, but it is up there and it is a fantastic ride. The airtime is just unbelievably sustained and can be enjoyed with just a simple clamshell restraint that rests on your lap. It's also very smooth, looks great, and has a compelling soundtrack as you climb up Orlando's tallest lift hill. Now, as we get onto the top 2, I want to point out that both of these rides are some of the best coasters in the entire world. Both are brand new, both have gotten a lot of publicity for good reason, and just take note that this order will differ for just about everyone. Though I do think I have a pretty confident decision made for what I'd consider to be my first and second favorite rides in the state. Coming in at number 2 is Jurassic World Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Putting this at number 2 physically hurts me to say because of how amazing this ride is. Velocicoaster has gotten rave reviews since opening last year, and it's really easy to see why. Starting with the queue line, you have some of the best theming on any coaster in the world. Whether it's the animatronics, the pre-shows, the artwork, the architecture, there is always something to look at. Then when you get on the ride, you have these extremely comfortable trains on the super smooth smooth Intamin track. The layout on this coaster is perfect for everyone because it starts off pretty gradual just so you can get a taste of what's to come and so that you can be immersed in this really cool raptor paddock. But once you hit that second launch, the coaster absolutely hauls and puts its foot on the gas. Every millisecond from then on out is some of the most pure fun you could ever ask for on a coaster. I've now ridden this ride over a dozen times across 2 different seasons, and I have to say front is the way to go. It's not even close either. People that say back is better must be crazy. You feel completely exposed, which really allows you to throw your hands in the air and forget about every worry in the world at that moment. Consider this a very close second because both of these rides are virtually top 5 coasters for me. However, taking the gold medal in the state of Florida is going to be Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. If I were to have judged this ride off of my first morning ride before it had warmed up, I would have easily put Velocicoaster higher, but every ride from there on out had me question whether I was on the same ride. If that tells you one thing, ride this later in the day and especially at night. Iron Gwazi flies through its layout at speeds I can't explain in words. The pacing really is some of the best in the entire world. Every moment from the second you crest that lift hill is absurdly intense, whether it's the sharp airtime moments, crushing positive G's, sharp laterals, you name it. Iron Gwazi might have the best blend of forces on any RMC coaster I've ridden, and it also might be the most intense. This ride almost proves the manufacturer's success story the most in my opinion. How they were able to take a rough wooden coaster that rot in the Florida sun for years and turn it into one of the best rides in the world is beyond me. Iron Gwazi is almost a highlight reel for what RMC could do if you ask them to build a record-breaking attraction with almost no budget. It isn't just the tallest, fastest hybrid coaster in the world, but it lives up to its stats and provides a ride for only the most daring thrill seekers. But with that being said, those are just 20 of my favorite coasters in the state of Florida. Were there any you thought I missed out on or any that you would rank differently? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe because there will be a lot more content like this coming in the near future. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye guys.